Payday, it's payday. Uh, Back in the olden days, paydays were maybe more frequent than they are today. A lot of people only get paid once a month. Sometimes it's once a week, depending on how it works in your employer with your employer. But there's some stuff that needs to happen around your payday, including paying the bills, maybe saving some money, investing some money. There is a TikTok trend these days of content creators posting on social media their payday routines. One of those content creators is Claudia Gleason, and she posted her routine, which got some significant interest both on social media and in traditional media. And we've asked her to come on and talk about that with us today. Claudia is in Ottawa. Hello there.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You post on TikTok regularly, you do all the things. Were you surprised that this particular post had such resonance both in the social world and with traditional media too?
Yes, absolutely. I think anytime a post does well, it's quite surprising. The algorithm is so convoluted and there are so many people posting all the time. If something happens to go viral or gain traction, it's hard to plan for and it's
Right.
hard to predict. So anytime that happens, yeah, I'm always it's intriguing what people will take and run with for sure.
Where did this idea come from? You're not the only one who's done it, but where did it come from for you?
I was fresh out of grad school and I had never been consistently paid before. I had never made consistent money in my life, and I was not used to being broke and living, TA salary to TA salary. So I was overwhelmed and stressed and unsure of what to do with this money that was suddenly coming into my bank account. And I thought that if I subdivided it a little bit, if I separated it, I could maybe allocate some money towards different goals, start saving for the future, start building an emergency savings account. So it really came from a place of suddenly making money and having no idea what to do with
Mm.
it.
What I love about your post is it's super simple and super clear. These are real numbers, they're your numbers. It's not some persona out there that people can't relate to. It's you and your real life. Tell us about your routine. So those who haven't seen the video, what would they see? What do you talk about?
So I always start by saying exactly how much money I'm getting paid. I get paid on a biweekly basis. So I say, I'm making X amount of money today. Let's budget that money together. And I sort of go through a list of about 7 different categories and talk about how much money I am going to put in. I do it offline first, on my own time, just to sort of make sure the math makes sense. I don't want to provide false numbers on the
Right.
internet. So I go through a list. I have some main priorities. So I have a first home savings account, I have an emergency savings account, and rent. And those are my top 3 categories that I start with. I also pay off my credit card as one of the first things I do. And then after I'm done those things that I consider my main priorities, then I get a little bit into the fun money. So I have,
Mm.
travel, I have spending, I have random savings goals,
Mm.
that I sort of go down a list of and say how much money I'm dedicating to that. And I tend to leave myself about $500 at the end of it as my biweekly budget. So
Mm.
that will cost for my daily expenses like groceries and coffee and takeout.
Very easy for people to picture what happens
Yeah.
with a first home savings account or a retirement savings account because they're a thing and you open them and that exists. With those other goals that you talked about, travel, long term goals like that, do you have separate accounts for each of those things? How do you make that work?
Yeah, I think that tends to confuse a lot of people because I do actually have all these different accounts. They're high interest savings accounts for the most part, or they are accounts that I have with Wealthsimple that are invested in the stock market. And I think that confuses a lot of people. I think some banks differ on how many of the accounts they let you have or how much you have to pay to have accounts. With my bank personally, I'm allowed to have as many accounts as I want. I'm not sure if that's normal or not.
Right.
So I
It's not
physically,
normal. It's rare because there's
okay,
fees associated with everything. So some people
yeah.
who are with a traditional bank think, wait a second, how can you have so many accounts? But for those who are with like an online bank or something, it's super easy. Some banks even have an ability to label within an account. So it's like an account within an account.
That is what I do. I label all these accounts. So I physically, when I open my bank, give a shout out to Desjardins because that's who I use for my bank. So point for Quebec here.
Yeah.
I see these physical titles and I know exactly where I'm transferring this money to. It's titled travel. It's titled emergency savings.
Can you make up the title?
Yeah.
So you could even change it from travel to spring in Cambodia
I absolutely could. And I
if
could
you
do the
wanted
same thing
to.
on Wealth Simple. And on Wealth Simple, you can add
Yes.
emojis. So a
Okay.
lot of my
And you
accounts
can
are
add
just,
emojis?
yes, on Wealth Simple, my travel account is just a palm tree.
Oh my God, genius. Um, so life is a series of trade-offs. Any grown-up knows you can't have it all at the same time. Sure, you can have it all, but not all at the same times. How do you determine which account gets what?
That's a really good question because it changes all the
Mm,
time. Consistently, I try to do emergency savings as always being my top priority because I have firsthand experience needing emergency money quick. And so I always try to keep that at top of mind. If I have a vacation planned, I'll contribute more. If I don't, maybe I'll contribute, a little bit less than normal, but at least it's something so that when I do want to plan on, I'm able to. But it changes like next week. I've decided that I'm moving this month. So in my next budgeting my paycheck video, I'm actually going to dedicate a lot more money than normal to my emergency savings because I know I'm gonna have to pay for movers. I know that there are gonna be unexpected things come up. So it really depends on what is currently going on in my life. And when there's nothing going on, when it's very boring, then I try to be as smart as I can in
mm,
planning for the future.
mm. One of the things that I've noticed about people who put their life out there on social media, there are certainly pros and cons, but one of the pros people talk about is the accountability that it provides. You've got people who are watching this video, and if you really fall off the wagon, there's going to be at least a perception of some sort of a consequence, like you're not going to be able to go out there. And how important is that for you, the accountability aspect?
I think more than anything, it's to hold myself accountable. That's really why I started in the first place. I'm not someone who has aspirations to be famous or make a lot of money from social media. Like, I don't make any money from it. It was really just to hold myself accountable and take inventory of how I was behaving with my money. And then also to sort of have that dialogue with other people. A lot of the women in my life, in particular, were completely unaware of what other women were doing with their money. And so it was really just a way to sort of say, this is what I'm doing, but let's be clear, I'm not a financial advisor.
Mm,
I don't have a degree in finances. You do not need to follow what I'm doing. And in fact, I do my best to not offer advice. I'm just saying, this is what I'm doing. You can take it or leave it. If it resonates, great, happy for you. But I'm just a 25-year-old who's, trying to figure out life post grad and this is what it looks like to me.
mm.
It might look very different for someone else.
Social media is a wonderful place. Social media is a horrendous place. And there's a lot of criticism and sometimes a lot of very polarized opinions about this. So I think by and large, the response to these payday routines has been positive. But have there been some negatives? Have there been some viewers who have come at you, for lack of a better phrase?
Yeah, absolutely. Um I don't think anyone will always agree with everything you do. I think to strive for that is setting yourself up for massive, massive failure. I am pretty lucky in the responses that I get, but at the end of the day, it is my money and it is my life. And if someone thinks I'm screwing that up, then that's mine to screw up, just as I wouldn't interfere with someone else's situation. That's their journey, that's
Mm,
their path. So
mm,
luckily I've been pretty fortunate. I think, this is a conversation of free speech, but there are filters and there are keywords that you can filter. And if ever something is just vile or mean, it's my post. I have no problem hiding it or deleting it or filtering it because if it affects my mental health, at the end of the day, it's
yeah.
it's not worth to engage in that situation. And if it's worth having a constructive conversation, I'm all for it. If it's
Yeah.
just mean, then I'm not cool with it.
You are a creator of content, you put it out there, but I also assume you're a consumer of content. When you look at the influencers, when you look at some of the personal finance content out there, what is some of the content that really resonates for you at this age and stage in your life?
I think it's so fascinating to see what other people my age are spending money on a weekly basis. I love doing, what I spent this week and see how much people are spending on groceries or on food, how often people are going out drinking and spending money on that. But I'm also really interested in how people my age are preparing for the future. I'll be honest, it's kind of bleak out there. Like I'm saving for a first home savings account, but I'm constantly saying like, who knows if I'll ever get to use it. So I'm preparing for the future, but with the sort of voice in the back of my head that what my parents thought was their future in terms of home ownership and things like that will be very radically different for me and my generation. But I still have hope, obviously, because I'm still doing my best to prepare in that way. So I think that's always really interesting to see how we're planning for the future and maybe what tips I could pick up from other people
Mm.
who are in similar positions.
There is a lot of controversy about the finfluencers and a lot of
Hmm.
polarization. I think it's awesome. And the reason I think it's awesome and why I think you're awesome is that we're putting out stories that are real, that are authentic, and helps your viewers see themselves reflected on their phone. Sure, it's on their phone, but I think that's a net positive. So thank you for that, Claudia. I think it's great.
Thank you. I completely agree.
Claudia Gleason is from Ottawa, Ontario, and we had her join us to talk about her payday routine, which is a little video that you can look up on TikTok. You can look it up on the internet, and it'll take you to TikTok eventually, and learn her particular example of what she brings in and where she allocates it when it's headed out.